There's laughing, she's smiling, she's beautiful. They're buying alcohol for a date night at home. Very playful, very happy.
They noticed a half-naked body lying in the road.
There was a laceration to the head, and there was a significant pool of blood. And there was a bottle of alcohol on scene. I saw that it was uncorked. It was next to her.
Was this murder, or was this an accident?
Kat belonged to a members-only type of website service. She was a beautiful woman, and one of the ways that she made money was selling pictures of herself.
It's one of the dangers of having a following on the internet. There are bad followers out there.
She was a great mother. They focus on her risky endeavors online, and she was so much more than that.
Looking at the video, everything looks great. It's sad to think that these are her final moments.
January 2018. For Kat and Jeff West, the quiet Birmingham, Alabama suburb of Calera is the perfect place to raise a family.
Kat was a very special person, and her energy was magnetic. Everybody was drawn to her.
Jeff was a very nice guy. He was very approachable and super sweet. It seemed like a match made in heaven.
Kat and Jeff have been together for nearly 15 years, and it's clear why Jeff fell for his wife.
Kat was beautiful inside and out. She captivated the audience the minute she walked in the door. She had a banging body, her makeup done all the time. Kat was hot.
Kat and I met as teenagers. She had this little Pontiac Fiero that I thought was really cool. She would pick me up and we would spend time with friends and go to the beach. We just did what most suburban kids do.
After high school, Kat surprises her friends when she takes a job in a club working as an exotic dancer.
She bought a condo in Tampa when she was 21 and began a relationship that she told me took her down a dark road, and she developed some bad habits, and it was not a healthy relationship the way she described it.
But when Kat turns 29, a chance encounter turns her life around. She meets Jeff West, a recruiter for the Army, and it's love at first sight.
They met in 2004 at a Super Bowl party. She just described him as a really sweet guy, and he was the person that she had sort of been waiting for, and the answer to her dreams and her knight in shining armor. Her life changed.
With Jeff in her life, Kat stops dancing, and after 4 months of dating, the couple marries. A year later, in 2005, the couple welcomes a baby girl, Logan, into the family.
Kat was a great mom. Yeah, she adored her daughter.
She would always rant about how Jeff was a great dad. They were very family-oriented, and you could see it.
In 2014, Kat and Jeff settle down in the small town of Calera, Alabama.
They moved to Alabama because both of their families lived there, and they wanted to be close to the grandparents.
They bought a big house. Jeff retired out of the military, and they had a great family life.
Jeff finds work as a campus police officer at a local college, while Kat is a stay-at-home mom. But the fun-loving couple still finds time to let loose.
She was the life of the party. That was her role. She loved it.
Friends love to follow Kat's life through her fun posts on social media.
It seemed like she was in a really good spot. She was very happy in the place that she always wanted to be.
January 12th, 2018. Kat and Jeff are heading out for a date night.
They dropped their daughter off at her grandparents' house, and they were going to have a good night.
Kat's parents and her daughter have no idea that this is the last time they will see her. In the early morning hours of January 13th, 2018, a 911 call comes into the Calera Police Department.
Around 5 a.m., a young woman living in the neighborhood noticed a half-naked body lying in the road.
The neighbor calls 911, and Calera Police Department rushes officers to the scene.
When they got there, they saw a female body and nothing but a pink bra.
The body is half in the road and half in the grass.
There was blood around her, and there was a bottle of absinthe right next to her as well.
Here in Alabama, the coroner's job is to go out on the scene, determine what the cause and manner of death is. She was a blonde female, very petite, maybe 30s, 40s. There was a laceration to the head, and there was a significant pool of blood. Also, looking around scene, we noticed that there was a cell phone on scene, there was a bottle of alcohol on scene. We saw that it was uncorked, it was next to her, but the bottle was kind of leaning up against the phone at an odd angle, so that was odd to all of us.
The bottle and cell phone are collected for testing as investigators look for evidence to help identify the victim and explain what happened to her.
There's a myriad of scenarios that are playing through your head. At face value, this looks like it was just an accident. Maybe they had walked down the street and they were hit by a car or fell, hit their head. Was she pushed down? Was this done by somebody?
As police examine the scene, a local resident tells officers they recognize the woman as their neighbor, Kat West, and points out her home right across the street. As detectives approach the home, they see that the door is open. Jeff West appears in the doorway.
The detective could tell that he was visibly shaken.
The investigators gently begin to interview the distraught man.
He had started to kind of detail their previous date night.
They go to dinner, and after, they didn't want the night to end, so they stopped at the liquor store, bought a bottle of absinthe, and went home and continued the night. She's changed, she's in something more comfortable. He's taken photos of her, and it seemed like the night was going well for the two of them.
Jeff tells the investigators that he and Kat returned home around 9 p.m., and he had shared some photos from their fun night together on social media, including one of the bottle of absinthe they were drinking.
He told police officers that he was tired, his leg was hurting, he went to bed in the downstairs bedroom around 10:30 p.m., and he also told them that his wife wasn't ready to put an end to the night at that time.
Jeff tells the detectives much of the night is muddled in his memory, but it was the sound of the police sirens that woke him up, right before they came up to his door.
After a couple of drinks, sometimes you don't remember, or if you do remember, everything isn't so clear.
At this point, you really have no leads as to really what happened, who did it, and where to even start.
The question then has to be asked, was this murder or was this an accident?
Jeff was the last person with her, so I mean, at that point, it makes him the first suspect.
Detectives discover images of Kat West's final moments.
This is the last time we saw Kat West alive. She looks smiley, cheek to cheek. The two of them are walking through the store.
And the more they learn about their victim, the more complex the case becomes.
She had 50,000 followers across social media accounts.
Kat was too friendly on occasion. Kat was too welcoming. And I feel that probably could have backfired at some point.
Detectives trying to unravel how Kat West died are interviewing her husband, Jeff, who tells them his memories of the previous night are hazy. After a night of drinking, he says he went to bed, while Kat continued to party.
This couple went to have dinner and drinks. They went to a liquor store. They went home to drink more. So I think it's more than fair to say alcohol had an influence in what recounting these events looked like.
But as the interview goes on, Jeff does admit he remembers one other thing about the night.
Jeff told officers that he was a little aggravated that she was looking at her phone too much.
He told police officers that he felt like she was not paying attention to him. He threw her phone outside, and he went to bed. He was off. Jeff told officers she could have went outside, fell as she was trying to get her phone, or it wasn't unlike her to go outside in the middle of the night after drinking and jump on the trampoline.
If she was jumping on the trampoline, which was in their yard, we would have seen a trail of blood. The police department had to rule that out.
Maybe she got too intoxicated, walked outside, tripped and fell and hit her head, and nobody knew about it. They were both intoxicated. Maybe he had passed out and before she had come back.
Investigators hope the coroner's report will help clear up the cause of Kat's death. As detectives wait for the report, Jeff takes to social media to let the couple's friends know what's happened.
I saw a post on social media that said, "Rest in peace, Kat West." I was shocked and sad and just couldn't believe it.
I hadn't heard from her in a while, and I went and checked her page. And that's when I found out that she was gone.
I immediately reached out to Jeff and said, "Wait, what? What happened?" He spelled it out for me. He didn't remember what had happened. He woke up with the dogs barking and his door open. The cops were at his door. I was shocked. He was worried about his daughter and getting life moving forward without his wife, her mom, Kat, being in the picture.
The coroner's report comes in the next day, January 14th. It doesn't give the detectives the clarity they are hoping for.
Forensics came back with the autopsy report, and it was determined that she died from blunt force trauma to the head.
So the skull was cracked. Someone struck her in the head, and she ultimately died from brain swelling. Looking at her laceration, it was about 2.5 inches long. It was on the side of her head, just a few inches from the top of the head. Where she had the laceration, it's almost impossible to get by falling down, and there was nothing out there for her to hit her head on. So we knew that did not happen. We know some kind of tool was used that was blunt, did not have a sharp edge on it. And the main thing that was in the vicinity that could have caused that was the bottle of alcohol.
There was a bottle of absinthe next to her that had a small chip in the base of it.
So the liquor bottle is very heavy. If you strike someone with that type of glass, it will not break. and there was some blood smears on the bottle that were Kat's blood. I think someone struck her with the bottle. So you think, what happened? Did somebody come in? Was this just a stranger in the night, or she, by happenstance, end up with somebody on the street?
The only fingerprints analysts find on the liquor bottle are either Kat's or Jeff's. But detectives know that doesn't prove anything, because the couple shared the bottle earlier in the evening. Although the coroner's report doesn't point to Jeff West as a suspect, the detectives feel it doesn't rule him out either.
The last person she was seen with was her husband, so you start to think, well, is there something that we missed? You know, is there something that we could press further on with him?
So the investigators start digging deeper into Jeff's story about the night his wife died. They visit the liquor store where the couple stopped before returning home.
You go to the liquor store, ask the employee that was on shift that night if they had seen them in there, pull security footage to verify.
But when investigators view the footage, what they find is the opposite of a couple on the verge of a violent conflict.
You can see Kat West. This is the last time we saw Kat West alive. The two of them are walking through the store. She looks smiley, cheek to cheek. Jeff West slaps her butt. It honestly leaves you with more questions than it does answer any of what might have happened.
Detectives suspect Kat West's husband, Jeff, may be involved in her mysterious death, but have no proof. They're examining Jeff's story about what the couple did earlier on the night Kat died, and have discovered surveillance video from the liquor store he says the couple stopped in. The video includes the final images of Kat alive.
Looking at the video, everything looks great.
The two of them just wrapped up a date night, seemingly having a nice time, flirting with each other in the liquor store.
It was funny when I saw it. He pats her butt. And I kind of chuckled because that's who he was. He loved his wife. He loved the way she looked.
There's laughing, she's smiling, she's beautiful, and they're buying alcohol for a date night at home. Everything appears to be normal, very playful, very happy. And it's sad to think that these are her final moments.
This final moment of her in the liquor store, that's who they were. That's who they are. They're good people, and she didn't deserve it.
The footage seems to corroborate Jeff's story that he and Kat are simply enjoying a fun night out. Detectives don't believe the images show him acting like a husband who will kill his wife in a few hours.
It looks like his entire story checked out, and that they did indeed have a fun night together, and that was it. There's no reason we should list him as a suspect.
Kat's friends are equally convinced that whatever happened to her, Jeff isn't to blame.
He never seemed overbearing. Like, I never heard them argue or anything. They just had an interesting relationship, but it seemed like in a really good way.
I don't think there's a harmful bone in Jeff West's body. I've never seen Jeff be an angry person. I've never seen him act in anger.
Although the coroner could not determine the exact cause and manner of Kat's death, investigators suspect foul play. And with Jeff now considered less likely to have been involved, the search is on for other potential suspects.
She has a laceration to the head from blunt force trauma, so we were thinking there is something nefarious about this death.
The other side of the investigation that you have to look at is who is Kat West. You try to find any information you can on her. Is she cheating on her husband? Does she have any enemies? We've got to look at all sides of this.
When investigators dig into Kat's internet history, they learn that she has a massive online presence.
Kat had a lot of friends online. You know, I keep my friends on Facebook, just my friends that I know. Kat had thousands of friends on Facebook because anybody that would add her, she would add. And I think that's what kept Kat on her phone all the time, was that she was always talking to people online. When Kat got hundreds of likes for a photo, that's a dopamine boost.
But the investigation also leads to a concerning discovery about Kat's online life. She wasn't only active on mainstream social media sites.
One of the things that came out was that Kat belonged to a members-only type of website service, that she would take pictures of herself in lingerie, maybe even provocative type poses, and was selling pictures of herself.
She had over 50,000 followers on her page who loved to purchase photos of her. She would model herself as Marilyn Monroe and went by the name Kitty Cat West.
She had told me that she sold her photos online, and she showed me a couple of them. I was shocked to see what I saw. They were revealing in nature. They showed her butt, her boobs, cute poses, lingerie, and people would ask for more and they would have to pay some more money to get more. She was open about it, and Jeff knew it.
The adult stuff that she was doing online, it surprised me at first, but I think it probably filled a void for her, or it gave her some validation that she might have been craving.
Detectives realized that any one of Kat's 50,000 plus followers could have taken an online fantasy about Kat too far.
As a woman, when you are beautiful and you are showcasing yourself to these people, having a lot of followers like that, some of them may think they know you. Some of them might try to find where you live or where you frequent. There are bad followers out there. It's one of the dangers of having a following on the internet.
Kat was too friendly on occasion. Kat was too welcoming. I think Kat could have gotten herself into some sticky situations, and I feel that probably could have backfired at some point.
There were questionable comments that raised an eyebrow for investigators.
Did one of these followers go rogue and stalk her, come and find her? You have to take that into account.
The investigation into the death of Kat West has taken an alarming turn after investigators discover her photos on an adult website with thousands of subscribers, any one of them a potential suspect.
You see this blonde bombshell. She is in her 40s. She is a hot mom, and she had 50,000 followers across social media accounts.
News of Kat's online activities clouds the investigation in another way, as it quickly grabs headlines in her suburban Alabama home.
It took off so quickly. Before we could even fathom it. You know, it's on all these news outlets.
I was a digital content producer at a news station in Birmingham at the time. In Alabama, it's conservative, it's the Bible Belt. A woman like Kat West, being a cam girl or an online selling nude photos, that is not your typical mother in this town. And it raised a lot of eyebrows.
There was a lot of victim blaming that she somehow contributed to her death. Her background of what she did was frowned upon. Obviously, her drinking was frowned upon. The community, they don't want to believe that this happens in Calera.
Just because she took those beautiful pictures, she was much more than that. They don't talk about how she was a great mother. They focus on her online stuff, her risky endeavors online. And she was so much more than that.
Investigators begin digging into Kat's vast pool of online followers, searching for anyone who might raise a red flag.
I've seen some of the comments online. They're not necessarily the nicest sounding people. I can't imagine what was in her inbox. Like, I'm sure it was pretty graphic.
Calera Police Department did a fantastic job and took their time to go back to her website to find out who was subscribing and literally check out every one of her subscribers.
You've got 50,000 followers to sift through and try to see if there's any case to be made on that.
But after 2 weeks of digging, investigators cannot find anyone among her online subscribers who might have been in the area the night Kat died.
Those people were ultimately ruled out and not considered suspects in this case.
Detectives are back to square one with no suspects. As they review their case, given the new information about Kat's online site, they can't help but wonder whether they dismissed her husband, Jeff, too quickly.
Kat West taking nude photos and selling them online also raises the question, how did her husband feel?
But investigators discover that once again, there's nothing to support suspicion of Jeff.
She wasn't living a double life. Jeff, he was very aware of it. Even her parents knew about it. His parents knew about it. So it wasn't a secret.
There had to be someone behind the camera taking those photos. And sure enough, it was Jeff.
He's in adoration of Kat and posting how hot she is. And so at that point, you're really not considering him as a suspect as much as you were before.
He didn't seem to mind at all. In fact, at one point, Jeff told me, that's how she makes her money and makes herself feel good. That's fine.
So from there, you just go back to the drawing board, right?
When detectives go back to their case file, they discover something curious, something they believe deserves a closer look.
The Wests had an ADT security system at their home, and that provided some telling information. It had a log of when their front door opened and closed.
So by Jeff's story, he went to bed at 10:30 that night, but when they checked his security, that's where they started finding out that the timelines of the events that he described, they weren't exactly matching up.
His ADT system showed the front door opened at 1:51 a.m. and stayed open for more than 4 hours past that point. The times in which that front door had opened was also past the time Jeff West said he went to sleep. It could have been his wife, it could have been Jeff, but we don't know that.
Let's not forget that it's January and the door is wide open. If you slept even a few hours with the door wide open, your home is cold. You wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, the door is open. I need to figure out, why is my door open?
The confusing data from the house security system causes investigators to once again take a look at Jeff West. And their new suspicions lead to a warrant for his cell phone records.
He told police officers he went to bed at 10:30, but his phone logged that he had been moving around past the time he told officers he went to bed.
According to the fitness history on his phone, a short time after 11 p.m., he had taken 18 steps.
The data from the phone and the door opening and closing were not exactly matching what he was telling them.
And some of the text messages with his wife found on Jeff's phone are troubling to investigators.
Looking at some of the text, it was obviously not a relationship that was perfect. She felt that he wanted to leave her. There were multiple texts with this back and forth of, should we split up? Should we stay together? She's telling him, I know you're scared to tell me if you don't want to be with me, but it's hurting me by lying. There were some fundamental issues wrong in the relationship, and the text just kind of highlighted those. All the way leading up to her death, they had these texts going on.
When investigators learn that Jeff is apparently not telling the truth about the timeline of his movements that night, they start to question everything else he has told them.
There are still a lot of holes and gaps into what really happened that night. But at that point, there was no other person of interest, there was no other suspect. It was Jeff West and Jeff West only that was being looked at as the murderer of his wife.
Investigators in Calera, Alabama have found evidence that contradicts Jeff West's story about his actions on the night his wife, Kat, died. After ruling him out earlier, the detectives are now again looking at him as a potential suspect.
Jeff had said that they had gone out on date night. They had come back home. They had taken pictures for her social media. They were in an argument about the phone because she was on her phone quite a bit, and he had gone to sleep and didn't know where she was.
He said his leg was hurting from a former injury he sustained in the Army, and so he went to bed, and Kat stayed up from there.
Detectives know the data from the West's home alarm system and from the fitness tracker app on Jeff's phone appear to contradict that. But Jeff is sticking with his original story.
He told police officers, how does anybody know the exact moment they went to bed? What's the difference between 10:30 and 11:15? If alcohol was involved, if someone asks you to the minute when you went to bed last night, are you able to have an accurate answer?
With Jeff now firmly in their sights, detectives go back and review all of the evidence. That includes obtaining the original 911 call from the neighbor who found Kat's body. When they listen to the full recording, they discover it contains a critical clue.
When she called 911, she asked had anybody already called this in, because across the street, she could see a man pacing in his home and the door was wide open.
This statement contradicts what Jeff West told police officers, and that was that he was awoken to the sound of sirens, which were not there yet.
Jeff's whole story seems to be falling apart. Next, the investigators conduct a careful re-examination of the evidence found near Kat's body. They realize there may be an explanation for some of the unusual things they noticed there.
We did see a cell phone on scene. There was a bottle of alcohol on scene. And it is weird that the bottle was kind of leaning up against the phone at an odd angle. You would think if you were intoxicated that the bottle would be just randomly down on the ground, not propped on the phone.
If Jeff was involved in his wife's death, they wonder, could he have staged the scene, trying to make it look like an accident? But it's when they re-examine Jeff's fingerprints on the absinthe bottle, previously dismissed because he was known to have held it earlier in the night, that the loudest alarms are set off.
The location of the fingerprints on the bottle of absinthe wouldn't be if you were to just grab a bottle. They were positioned if you were holding it upside down by the neck.
Detectives realize this could be because Jeff was holding the bottle of absinthe as a weapon. And they now put together a theory of what they believe happened the night Kat died.
Probably Kat was on her phone and that irritated him, and Jeff threw her phone outside. And then afterwards they took pictures, and she only had the bra on. And obviously something went wrong. Probably her asking where my phone is. And she went out to find the phone. He followed her out there and things escalated. I think he initially struck her with the bottle. She fell and probably lost consciousness at the time. And he walked back to the house. And as she regained some type of consciousness, she moved around in the grass and kind of pulled herself to the curb. She was in a fetal position, but probably because she was cold. She was just clothed in a pink bra, no other clothes.
Afterwards, the investigators theorize Jeff tried to cover up his crime by staging Kat's cell phone and the bottle next to her.
Obviously, there are some holes in the story, and as it progressed, the holes became bigger. So about 5 weeks after the cat was found on the street, Jeff was arrested for her death.
Despite having only circumstantial evidence, on February 23, 2018, police charged Jeff West with murder. Jeff continues to insist he did not kill his wife, and many people believe he is telling the truth.
Kat West's family, her parents, her friends, all sided with Jeff West. They immediately said that he didn't do it. They loved each other and they had this marriage that was so beautiful. And although they argued here and there, like that's just marriage. That's what comes with it.
When I first found out, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, Jeff? Jeff hit her with a bottle?
I would have never pegged Jeff to be harmful in any way. I was in disbelief that Jeff would have killed Kat.
The evidence is counterintuitive to what I knew about her and Jeff.
Hoping to avoid a lengthy trial with an outcome they can't be certain of, prosecutors make Jeff an offer.
He was offered a plea deal from the prosecution for time served plus 2 years probation. He turned that down.
So you're turning down that for possibly spending years in prison. It made you wonder, is he really innocent? Maybe he didn't do it.
Jeff West's trial for the murder of his wife Kat outside their Calera, Alabama home is set to begin on November 17, 2020.
Jeff was offered a plea deal where he would serve time at a lesser charge. He would get out of jail earlier, prison earlier, but he did not want to do that. He wanted to pursue a jury trial and still maintain his innocence.
I was shocked when Jeff didn't take the plea deal, but I understood why. If that's your story and you're sticking to it, why would you take the plea deal?
Prosecutors argue that Kat's death was not an accident. That Jeff West bludgeoned her to death with an alcohol bottle following an argument.
The most damning testimony that was given was the medical examiners, who said that she could not have died by falling.
Prosecutors present jurors with the home alarm data and information from Jeff's fitness tracker suggesting he lied about his actions on the night of Kat's death. They display the texts showing a troubled marriage. And they showed the video of Jeff and Kat purchasing the murder weapon, a bottle of absinthe. But Jeff's lawyers counter that the investigation was not able to prove that the bottle was in fact used to kill Kat.
When Jeff West's attorneys were presenting the case to the jurors, they were saying, we don't have a murder weapon. We don't have a motive. These two were in love. It's not Jeff West.
After a week of testimony, both sides rest their cases.
When the jurors went to deliberate, I thought it could go either way.
The jury's options were murder, manslaughter, or innocent. I thought that they were either going to pick one of the extremes, that he killed her with intent or that he didn't at all. The jury came back after their deliberations and read their verdict. Jeff West was guilty of reckless manslaughter.
Jeff wasn't necessarily planning for this to happen. They had gone out, they had gotten drunk, they had gotten disgruntled about something and maybe gotten into an argument. It wasn't premeditated murder, it was more of a reckless killing.
To see them fall in that middle ground that he was responsible for killing her but did not intend to was interesting, because that wasn't a story told by the prosecution or the defense. The defense is over here saying he didn't do it at all. The prosecution is saying he did and he meant to. The jury decided neither of those narratives held true. Jeff West was sentenced to 16 years.
Though Jeff West sits behind bars, for many, questions about his guilt still linger.
I think Calera PD saw online double life, jealous husband, crazy guy, and he killed her. But there are lots of other avenues that could have happened that night that I don't feel were investigated well enough.
I don't think justice was served in the case because I don't think it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But that doesn't mean he didn't do it.
The thing I miss most about Kat is her glowing attitude. She was always there as a friend. She could cheer you up any time of day, just a sweet person. She's gone way too soon, just way too soon.
She had just a glow about her. She had a spark, you know? She's just one of them people that you never forget.
I got to say goodbye to Kat and Jeff when they were leaving to Alabama, and I remember giving her a huge hug, and she was happy to be going home. And the light in her eyes was telling. She was thrilled to be moving on and going and living her dream.
She was probably the best person I've ever met. Seriously. That's how good her heart was. The world is missing her beautiful soul. I miss her love and her light and her energy.